So, how to choose your EFC practice. This every year is something some people really stress about, and it is worth considering. It is worth choosing carefully, and on another level, it's not worth putting too much stress into. So, EFC is a transformational course where we say that your ability to coach embodiment is based on your own embodiment. So therefore it makes sense you do your morning practice and also what we call your core practice. So this is the one thing you will pick. Normally people do a series of experiments. Sometimes these are a bit random, sometimes we structure them, and then they pick one of these things they've done experiments on that they think will build the way of being that they would like to develop. This is the key thing. You're picking a practice based on the way of being, your embodiment you would like to develop in yourself. So this is not I'm going to do Aikido because Mark did Aikido, or I'm going to do karate because my best friend does that. Okay, it's picking a very deliberate saying, what is the embodiment I want to build? You could use the 4 elements model for that, like more fiery, more earthy, or you can be more specific, like, I don't know, more passionate or more structured, yeah? So finding something you really want to build in your body that you think will help you as a coach or a trainer. Sometimes people try and pick 3 things. Man who chased 2 rabbits catch neither, however. So it is well worth picking one thing, that your core thing that you're trying to develop. You can always get another practice another time, and you've got your EYP poses as well. So we're picking something we want to develop in ourselves that matters, that's important to us, that will help us become a better facilitator, and then commit to it. So the other mistake people I see make is, one, not being clear what they're trying to build. Second mistake would be jumping around doing this, then doing that, and saying, I don't like that, I don't like this. It's like, on one level, it's just fucking pick something. Yeah. On one level, it's like, you can almost build, if you think of embodied intelligence, you can almost build any of those skills through any practice. Now, some are easier than others. So, for example, if you wanted to build social awareness, having a solitary Tai Chi practice is not ideal, but even in that, you're probably going to go to Tai Chi classes, there's other people around, you know. So in some ways, just letting go of the stress of this is helpful. In other ways, yes, let's be specific. Let's pick a practice that really builds, which the embodied intelligence skills, or which of the, way of being, the elements or whatever model we're using is most helpful to us. What you do, how you do it. So yes, you're picking a practice, but a lot depends on the teacher, the style. There's Aikido styles that are much more fiery, much more watery. So when someone comes to me and says, will Aikido help me build fire? I'm like, well, depends. Like the club, there's some clubs of Aikido that are super fiery in the culture, in the style of practice, and the teacher. Others not at all, the absolute opposite. So a lot depends on the teacher and the style, and also how you do it. So for example, if you turn up to improv and you do it very structured and you do it every Tuesday, exactly 8 p.m. with the same people in the same place, that's a really earthy way of doing a very airy practice, yeah? Equally, if you turn up to, a Tai Chi form to build your earth, but you're always late and you're always playful and you're being silly and making jokes while doing it, that's air. So you can sabotage your practice with how you're doing it, or support your practice with how you're doing it. So it's what and how, also who and where, actually. So who is the club, the people, the culture, and even where you do it. Is it the physical environment you're doing within can impact it, So doing a very formal structured practice in a crazy room full of mess and chaos and crap all over the place, probably not helpful. So look at the who, the where, and the how, particularly. That's a definition of embodiment, right? As well as the what you're doing. The club, the culture makes a difference. Also convenience. So yes, you're doing what you need, what you're training, what you're choosing to do, but actually convenience makes a big difference. Yeah, there was a study on gyms that said the biggest factor of whether someone continued going to the gym was whether it was near their house, okay, or their workplace. Other factors include, did they have a friend that they would go with? That could be super helpful, super convenient. Did they like their PT, obviously their trainer? Do you like the teacher? Obviously the teacher has to be ethical, safe. If you're, for example, going to a martial arts club where you see abuse or unethical behavior, that's pretty much the one instance where we'd encourage students to leave and choose a new practice. Hopefully the same karate somewhere else, but if not possible in a martial art, if not possible another earth practice or whatever. But that's the one instance where we'd say to people, if you're getting damaged or it's abusive or sexual predators or whatever, just leave, okay? Don't ever tolerate that in your practice. Just want to be really clear about that. Committing to a practice doesn't mean committing to any kind of abuse. However, this isn't the same as, I just sort of don't like it or I'm getting bored of it. No, fuck that. That's the point in your practice. You will plateau. You will, if you stick to something, kids like me, I'm looking at you, if you stick to something, it will challenge patterns in a way that jumping around the sweet shop of global postmodern embodiment will not. So do stick to something unless it's abusive. And that convenience factor of, is it near your house? Can you get there regularly? It's better to, you'll get more from a practice which isn't ideal that you actually do than an ideal practice that you don't do. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the practice that you do is the best one. And this comes to the last point, a really important point, is love. One way of choosing a practice is just, what are you drawn to intuitively? That could be like, oh shit, I really need that even though it's hard. Or it could be, oh my God, this is amazing, I really enjoy it. Again, because if you enjoy it, I remember when I got into tango, I was dancing tango 4 nights a week for 4 hours at a time. What's that? 16 hours of practice a week, despite running a business and working 50 hours on that. That's a hell of a lot of practice. So I was clocking 16 hours a week of tango for a good year because I loved it, because I just was drawn to it. It was fun. It was pretty girls. I was single at the time. It was music. It was like a fantasy world I could get away from work from. I just really liked it. So it's, enjoyment is not to be underrated as a factor, as long as it's still basically heading in the direction of what we want to build, and we're not just deepening our neurosis. That's, be a bit careful, back to the first point. Okay, but enjoyment, love, and that, or it could be an intuitive, like when I saw Aikido, I didn't find it easy at first, but I just was like, deep inside, I was like, I need this, and it kept me coming back, that deep longing. It wasn't so much fun. It became fun. You can also have what I call an arranged marriage. So arranged marriages work surprisingly well, actually, as a metaphor and in life, where you go, you know what, I like this person, there's some basic fit. Like I have British Asian friends that have had arranged marriages, and they don't just get told to marry anyone, but they get introduced and they meet people and they show them pictures and they meet them with their parents, and eventually they go, oh, this person seems nice and is a good fit, but they're not massively in love, they just go basically okay. Practices can be like that. You can go, you know what, this is basically fine for what I want to do. I don't hate it. It's convenient. I'm going to stick with it. And then the love develops. That is possible. As long as it's not totally triggering or totally awful from the start, you're just not going to stick with that. So the key is to find, I think the ideal is something that's building what you need, relatively convenient, and there's at least a possibility of you loving it. There's at least, sometimes there's an aspect that you enjoy that's like, okay, well, I'm really working on my earth, but there's just one area part of it that I can kind of enjoy, or I enjoy the socializing side of it, with nice people, all right, even if the practice is hard work. So finding something you enjoy, finding at least some love, seeing there's at least potential to fall in love with it, is absolutely key, I think, to choosing a practice. Sometimes it's more intuitive than that. And back to that first point as well, just fucking pick something. The commitment to doing one thing and how you do it is more important in some ways than getting the exact right specialist Korean martial art or whatever. Yeah, whatever you do, enjoy it. This is one of the spines, one of the central parts of EFC is, of course, get advice from your peer group. So you're not picking, in your peer groups, make sure you challenge each other. So when it comes to the point you're picking practices, a really good practice in peer groups is to have one person say why you should do it and another person say why you shouldn't do it, like artificially set that up. Like, Mark, you should do this because it will help you get disciplined. And Mark, you shouldn't do this because you're already too disciplined and you'll push yourself too hard. So make a case for and against, challenge each other, give each other good ideas, get friends to go with, and of course get the advice of your teachers on the course, the different trainers and assistant trainers. And the room team have been through this practice. The room team have all done EFC, so talk to the room team and see what they did. They'll probably have some regrets, they'll have some benefits, you can learn a lot from their experience, and they've only done it usually just 1 year before, or maybe 2 years, usually one, so that's another good group of people to speak to when choosing a practice. Yeah, so in terms of practices, Strozzi's good to read on this, his books like Leadership Dojo, Embodied Coaching, and Ginny Whitelaw is exceptional at this, so her book Move to Greatness. She has a model that is a bit different from the 4 elements, but pretty equivalent. She's well worth a look on this. And Shinzen Young is a meditation teacher that's really helped me talk about this. He talks about those 3 categories as the necessity, the opportunity, and what is it? The liking. I forget what he calls that. But yeah, there are other people worth reading on practice and how to choose practices. And this kind of head, heart, belly, intuitive mix, I think, is the ideal.